Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. Staff is here to provide for you a briefing or an update to the Brandon Corridor study. To my right, your left, Ms. Sarah McKinley. She's our co-project manager for this with the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Also here today is Steve Shoecraft from HDR, the consultant that was retained for this study. We'd like to thank some of our project partners, HART, Hillsborough Area Regional Transit, as well as Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County is a number of different agencies. It's Development Services, the Economic Development, as well as Public Works, and the Florida Department of Transportation. I'd also like to thank the hundreds of people from the Brandon community that have been working with us in the past 18 months. Granted, many more of them have been working with us in the last 2 weeks. Many of them are here today, so we hope to be thorough, but we hope to be brief, and we'll see how we do that. So what is this study? Well, this is the Brandon Mixed-Use Corridor Centers Pilot Project. Let's just go to the pilot project aspect of this. A pilot project is something that is done to find out conceptual ideas and study feasibility. It's very early in the study. So we do have some big ideas, and we tested some big ideas here. But again, this is one of feasibility, and it's one of conceptual. So what exactly is the end game? Well, part of that end game is that there is no money attached to design, and there's no money that's attached to construction of anything in this study. Most likely there will be a phase 2, and perhaps Sarah or some of the county staff may be able to chit-chat to what that phase 2 may have. So what is the connection of centers and corridors? Well, land use, we have a lot of that looking in Brandon. We've got a variety of different areas, a variety of them with redevelopment potential, and we're going to look at that. Opportunities for development and redevelopment along those corridors, a market analysis, that's a reality check. This is something that is unique for this study, wanting to make sure that we are grounded in reality, that we are actually looking at what is needed in that community as a market perspective, and develop policies to incentivize development and redevelopment. That will go into the corridors, into the centers, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Transportation, the travel patterns and the overall circulation to and from and within this study area. There are a lot of people moving through this area, and there are a lot of people that live here. There are nearly 80,000 people that live there, and there's quite a few people that just make it from point A to point B to point C through there. So we'll talk about where are some of those people coming from and where are they going. The east-west corridors, the potential projects along them, Sarah will speak to that, and also identify opportunities for transit in these corridors. So about that study and where we are, basically to the west, I-75, to the north, State Road 60, to the south, Bloomingdale, and to the east, Dover. And again, what we were talking about with this is pilot project. Take a step back and just think about projects that you might do in your own home. If you ever remodeled anything in your own home, one of the first things you might do is talk about it being conceptual. Then you might ask yourself, feasibility. Can I feasibly work what I want to do in my house? What do I have to do to remodel my house? Do I have to knock down a wall? Is that wall load bearing? What about the plumbing? Do I have to move the plumbing? What about the electrical? So these are all things that you start to talk about with feasibility before you move through. Why I wanted to talk about this is because very often when you actually have a conceptual plan in the final product, they are very different. And this pilot project has that possibility that the end project, several years down the line, could be very different than what we are talking about today. To drill down into the study area, we did look at these 3 corridors. State Road 60, basically going north to south, top of the slide going down. State Road 60, Lumsden, and then Bloomingdale. Sarah will be able to tell you more about that. Some of the key findings here, market conditions are ever changing. Oh boy, that's a big one. Think about it. We're in the middle of the 2nd week of October. How many of you have made an e-commerce purchase this week so far? How about it? A couple of e-commerce? If you ask that same question a year, 2, 3 years ago, might not have the same number of people. Why are we bringing that up? 16% of all retail establishments for Hillsborough County are in the study area. 16% of your bookstores, your grocery stores, mall. There's a lot of retail. What will be the nature of retail in the coming years? We know that outside the development affects internal mobility. We know that there are a lot of people coming from outside this area, coming through this area, going to the University of South Florida, they're going to downtown Tampa, they're going to West Shore, they're going to the MacDill Air Force Base and points in between. So one of the key questions to answer here is how can we better move people through this corridor and do so to where the folks that live and work in this corridor, they don't lose any quality of life. So connectivity and accessibility. Well, this is also a big one. We'll get into it and look at it. When you look at the road network that's out there, there are just not a lot of east-west connectors. The three that we're going to talk about, that's about it for this study area. There's some north-south connectors, but there's not a lot of east-west. So it's a challenge of how we can actually connect these communities. There is limited redevelopment potential. We'll talk about that. Then we'll look at a map. It looks like it's modern art. It's just a spackle everywhere of color that's all over it. And with that, saturated with retail and office facilities. Office. There's about 2.5 million square feet of office out there. It doesn't sound like much because honestly, maybe it's not. Think about it. This building, including the parking garage, is 665,000 square feet. There's 2.5 million in the entire study area out there. It's primarily scattered. It's primarily in small standalone buildings. So there may be a redevelopment potential opportunity there about trying to get folks to work and live in the same areas. Existing infrastructure could be better leveraged. This is something that should be on all of our thoughts, and probably should be the first thing under key findings. Billions of dollars have been spent on infrastructure throughout this county. So how can we take an existing roadway and do more with it? What can we do? I-75 is close. The crosstown is close. There's a lot of infrastructure that's there, so how can we actually better leverage that? Okay, so this is my modern art. This is my splatter all over the place. Red, development potential. It's redevelopment. And the blue parcel, it's basically vacant. So why we're showing you this? Basically, there's not a lot of redevelopment potential that's concentrated. I don't have a lot of large swaths other than maybe the Brandon Main Street property. A lot of you know where that is. Basically, it's a couple of blocks east of the mall as the crow flies. So where this is going is if you're going to have large wholesale change in your community, you're going to be assembling property to do so. So chances are you're not going to have large wholesale change. What you are going to have is incremental change over time. So you have to plan for that. You need to ask for policy direction that will pick it up and move over time. Okay, so that development potential. Basically, 1 in 5 acres have potential to be redeveloped in this area. And again, they're scattered. They're all over the place. And then a lot of them are small. They're 2 acres, 3 acres. But you do find a good bit of it along the corridors. So we'll talk about that. So this goes back to the market summary. We did talk about some of this. The retail being 3% vacancy, so you're full. When there is new retail that comes in, it's immediately absorbed. It makes sense. I mean, if there's 16% of it countywide there, that is an attractor. So other retailers nationwide look at Brandon as a possibility to test new retail or existing retail that's already strong in our community of Southwest Central Florida. That's an area that they're going to go into. We talked a little bit about the office. Hotels, this was one that really none of us thought about until we read the market analysis. There are 2,100 rooms just outside the study area. They're all on the west of I-75. There's only one existing to the east of I-75, so is there an opportunity for hotels in this area? Possibly. The hotel around the hospital could be something that could be seen as a boutique hotel that you might see for the hospital. Housing, 33,000 existing housing units. There's roughly 80,000 people that live in this area. It's desirable. More people are going to live there. The amount of property that is available and the cost of that property may dictate that you see more multifamily housing and more attached housing in this area. The majority of that, as it stands now, falls into the western areas of the study area, closer to I-75. The land uses and the zonings correspond. So one of the first things that we did is with HDR came up with ideas of where do we have the redevelopment potential. So here are 11 different areas. We've got a couple of them on State Road 60, a couple of them on Lumsden, a couple of them on Bloomingdale. This is also part of where we start to break in with our public participation. We sent a survey out. A couple of hundred people responded from that survey where we started asking them specific questions about these concepts, talking about, well, what do you think of this area? Could this area progress into something else over time, something that has better accessibility internally and externally? What about types of uses that are in there? Could you have a mixture of uses in there? What about having more businesses in there or having more opportunities for housing in there? And so we'll talk about some of that. So can't build future plans without looking at past plans. Part of this is the vision map for Hillsborough County. Basically what we're doing here is we want to look and make sure that we are lining up with some of those past planning efforts and making sure that we are adequately addressing them and looking forward, if we are actually introducing anything, we do so appropriately. So high intensity urban centers, that matches up very well, going left to right, my left to my right, to the mall, and then to the Brandon Main Street properties, and then to the hospital all along State Road 60. And then moving down, you can see with some of the high-intensity suburban, some of the other centers. Brandon has a community plan. It's got a very good community plan. It's a very old community plan. It's something that they hold very close to them. So we want to make sure that, again, this lines up with the character districts that are in the plan. So you have urban centers, you have urban general, and you have suburban. And again, we're going to talk about how some of this shook out through the public participation process as well as through working with staff. And you can see again that urban center working within the mall, urban center working within the Brandon Main Street and parts of the hospital, and then going down into urban general. So the center types, 3 of them. And again, building off of past planning efforts, some of the strip commercial studies that came out in 2014 through Dover Cole. This is an idea to look at this and see, can we refine and can we copy and can we go ahead and find something that we can put into other areas of the county. So modern suburban centers, and I'm going from my right to my left. Modern suburban centers, that's basically what you have out there in a lot of different areas. This is an auto-oriented development. I'm not going to say that it is internalized or just totally closes itself off from the rest of the world, but it is the type of suburban development that we do get throughout a lot of Hillsborough County, a lot of Florida, a lot of the United States. It's not to say that it's outdated, it's not to say that it's bad, but what you could ask of it is, can we do something better? So as we ask ourselves, can we do something better? Perhaps a connected suburban center. What you're doing here is you're just asking yourself, can I take these same shopping centers that are being developed along my commercial strip and can I make sure that they have access, they have cross access? Can I make sure that they have clean and clear lines of demarcation for pedestrians? Can I make sure that they have clean and clear lines of demarcation for cyclists moving within them? Also, can I introduce different uses into them? Can we go ahead and have an apartment complex that is built next to or behind a shopping center? Then moving again even further to a compact urban center. Again, these are areas where it's designed to where you will get there, you will get out of your car, and you will not have to get back into your car. You will visit your friends that live in that compact urban center. You might work in it. You might be able to go to dinner, get your groceries. There's a variety of different mix of uses that would go along there. So where does that shake out? So as we said, basically, today, much of the area is a modern suburban center. So what we're looking at here, preliminary center designations, is going, what do we want these areas to become? And again, this is what much of the public through the survey instrument looked at. They said, yes, we do want these areas to become more walkable. Yes, we do want these areas to have the ability to connect between. We would like to be able to get somewhere and get out of our car and walk around and enjoy the community that we call home. So you have a variety of connected suburban, those are the yellows, and then the 3 reds, which are the compact urbans that are along State Road 60. So let's visit this one more time and talk about it. How will this happen? What is the implementation mechanism at this? Well, remember where we talked about earlier, this is a pilot project and these are conceptual. So the implementation is something that will be discussed hopefully in phase 2 of this project. So you can start to ask your questions about it. Is it an overlay? Maybe. Is it an overlay that would be in the comprehensive plan or the zoning code? Well, you're really getting ahead of yourself right there because we're just not sure what it is that these will shake out as. But what we do know is we're starting to build policy direction for how these centers will look, how they will act, and how they will feel to one another, and how the public will be able to interact with them. And now Sarah will discuss transportation with you. Thank you much.
All right, hello there. Again, Sarah McKinley, MPO staff. I'm going to go through some of the feasibility analysis that we did for the transportation enhancements. So by 2040, we are expecting that a good majority of the roads within the study area will be failing. And as many people know today, there are a lot that are currently congested and failing too. So we wanted to look at the major, 3 major east-west corridors to see how to help and some transportation enhancements for those corridors. Again, this is a big commuting area. About 60% of the residents of this area commute to either downtown or West Shore. And a lot of the traffic from Fishhawk even moves north and through the study area as well. So there's some commuting and circulation issues with the area. The first project that we looked at was the concept of a reversible lane on Bloomingdale. This is a project, it looked at whether or not a reversible lane could be between US 301 and Lithia Pinecrest. The study then looked at shortening that to Bell Shoals. All right, where did the reversible lane concept come from? In 2012, the MPO did a congestion management study that looked at some ways to help, innovative ways to help congestion on some of our major corridors. 2 roadways, Bloomingdale Avenue and Gun Highway, were both identified as possible locations for the reversible lane. So what we did through this study is sort of ask the question, could this really happen? Is this feasible? Is this something that should be looked into further? So we did a high-level feasibility analysis of the corridor and found that due to the lack of secondary network along the corridor, it would eliminate and make left turns very difficult during peak periods. It would cause some of it would alleviate some of the congestion along Bloomingdale Avenue, but it would then create higher congestion on those crossroads as well. Through this, we looked at possibly some enhancements to the intersections instead, and looked at maybe lengthening some of the right turn lanes. And then also, but yeah, as you can see here, some of the right turns, or you'd have to go right to go left, and again, there's no secondary network that would help with that. Lumsden Road widening. We looked at widening Lumsden Road from Kings to Lithia Pinecrest. This would widen the road from 4 to 6 lanes. This would also include, we could extend the Brandon Parkway along the north side, so that would be an extension of the existing trail. We could include wider sidewalks and enhancement. This project is a very costly project. It would include taking 32 parcels. Some of those are partial and impartial takes at about $25 million for right-of-way and then $13.5 million for construction. With this roadway, you could not, if you widen this, you would enhance the bottleneck on Lithia Pinecrest. And then if you widen Lithia Pinecrest without that, you'd have the same issue with additional bottlenecks. So this is sort of a project, if moved forward, would need to be sort of in tandem with Lithia Pinecrest. We also looked at bus rapid transit along State Road 60 in Oakfield. these are parallel sister corridors that could help alleviate some of the traffic along those roadways. We looked at some center lane alignments and outer lane alignments for the BRT. Center lane alignments, those would cost or create some pedestrian concerns with the folks getting to the bus in the center lane, as well as the outer lane would cause some issues with right turns. There's also some choke points along the corridor. As you can see, there's the one midway on State Road 60, and then also parts of Oakfield that would require some right-of-way. We also looked at the potential for some transit circulators within the area, as well as a new intermodal hub for the area, and these are some of those recommendations as well. Some other considerations that we looked at were adding any additional capacity added either north-south or east-west would help, because the secondary network is so limited at this point from the way the suburban neighborhoods have developed, and there's not connectivity between those neighborhoods. Also, again, extending right turn lanes, adding queue jumps for buses along Bloomingdale could help out. Other intersection enhancements, enhanced pedestrian crosswalks. We looked at another high-level analysis looking at a roundabout at Lithia Pinecrest and Bryan Road, just to help out the skewed intersection. And then also, we've been working with DOT on the intersection of US 301 and Bloomingdale Avenue. They currently have plans to extend the on-ramp, widen it from 1 to 2 lanes. That's the entrance ramp for I-75 and the Selman Parkway or Expressway. Again, preserving right-of-way for additional east-west connections. And then there's also the interchange improvements at I-75 and State Road 60 that have just been funded. All right. Phase 2, the county's working on phase 2. That'll focus on refining those development and infill strategies that Jay spoke about. Also preparing some scenarios for the area, and then looking at the potential benefits and impacts to the infrastructure system as well as to the businesses. All right. Some of the additional next steps for transportation, again, intersection improvements along Bloomingdale Avenue, and then the US 301 Bloomingdale interchange. That will be coming back as part of the I-75 enhancement study that FDOT is doing. We've been working with HART as part of this, supporting their transit development plan. As the Mission Max went into effect yesterday, there's also the new express bus for Brandon that ties in Brandon downtown to West Shore, and that's something that's also moved forward from the study. And then supporting the regional transit feasibility plan, as well as review requirements for those connections through new developments as they come in. We have lots of public comment that we're opening up for. Again, we're at this meeting today. We have all the MPO committees. The BPAC is in the evening, the rest are during the day. And then we also have our October 30th Brandon Community Outreach meeting at the Regent. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Before we go to public comment, I was going to ask if Lucia Garces, I know is with the county, I think, if you wanted to comment on this at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. It's good to be back before you. I want to really thank you and Melissa and her staff for undertaking this study, because as Jay said, it really is a pilot project. It is innovative on so many different fronts. It's innovative in its content because while we talk about land use and transportation, for the first time we're really starting to integrate it as we look at redevelopment and different modes of transportation, not just widening them, not just transit, but various modes. It is also innovative in its content because of the market analysis that was done. It's the first time that we've actually done that. It's also innovative on a very different front, and that is your Planning Commission staff and my staff working together in trying to figure out how to crack these nuts, because it's a new way of doing business, and we really are grateful for that opportunity to work together, for their really openness in listening to our comments. And as we move forward with this project, we look forward to the next steps. I think Jay's comments were that it's still conceptual. It's still a pilot project. And as we move forward, I think the only caution I have is that some of the language that currently is in there is somewhat prescriptive, somewhat code written, and we've talked to your staff about this, and as we move forward, we're going to look at ways to really create policy guidelines. But in the world of information and data, it is chock full of stuff that we're going to use. So what are we going to do with it? We are embarking on an $812 million transportation program that the Board of County Commissioners authorized back in April, and it includes a lot of intersection projects. It includes a lot of road widening projects. Includes a road project in Lithia, looking at Lithia. But one of the things our board has been adamant about is how do we make sure that as we move with road widening projects and improvement projects, how do we make sure that we incorporate land and land use issues, everything at the micro level to the access management level. So this study that was done, we're going to be using that as well to understand the movement and the kind of land uses that are appropriate. We're also embarking as a next step on a Brandon Town Center and hospital area redevelopment project, and these two areas were identified as opportunities through this particular study as well. So we have met initially with a couple of folks, and as this study starts wrapping up, we're going to start gearing up to meet with them to really undertake a true redevelopment that's going to look at traffic patterns, it's going to look at how we minimize some of the travel times and travel distances. And out of that, we think that some of the work that's been done here, we will certainly use it, but we will understand it better and begin to forge it so that in the future, these really do become typologies for corridors that we can use as we move forward with the comprehensive plan. So those are just my short comments. And again, really, really thank you all, and thank you, Melissa and her staff, for working with us on this.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move into public comment. As I said earlier, we have a large number of folks who've signed up, so I'm going to hold everybody to the 3 minutes. If you go over, I am going to cut you off. I'm going to start with, and I'll let you know the couple people so the next person can kind of line up. Walter Kulish first, and then Dr. Richard Kane. So if you're second, just get in line, and after that, Mark Woodside, okay. Yeah, just so you're ready.
Okay.
Please state your name and address when you come forward, too.
Okay, thank you. Walter Kulash, current address is P.O. Box 252, Little Switzerland, North Carolina. Former address was Florida for 30 years or so. I'm a registered licensed engineer in Florida, 4 other states. I've worked with the Winthrop development for at least 10 years on issues related to their immediate traffic access and their internal circulation. At their request, I focused sharply on the pilot project report and sharply just on that part of it that has to do with the reversible lanes on Bloomingdale Avenue. And even more sharply, I focused on the travel time summary that was very clearly and nicely reported in that document. And I would like to make that reporting even a little bit more clearer. Document offers as a primary evaluation measure total travel time, vehicle hours of travel. Really means person hours of travel, but we engineers call it vehicle hours of travel. What does the report say about vehicle hours of travel under the 2 reversible lane plans? The report says that it says this directly for the 3-2 proposal, three lanes in one direction, 2 in the other. And it says it indirectly, and we add a little further interpretation for the reversible lane 3-1 plan. It says that both plans increase the vehicle hours of travel during the peak hour. And of course they have no effect during the off-peak period. Repeat that again, because I was astonished when I saw it first myself too, that both plans increase the total amount of travel. What's going on here? Let's take the 3-2 plan first. 3 lanes in the peak direction, 2 lanes in the off-peak. That plan does indeed reduce the vehicle hours of travel by 89 hours for the peak direction of travel. Commuters are getting a better travel time. People traveling primarily through Brandon with neither origin or destination. However, all other trips to the community, trips on the cross streets, people turning off of Bloomingdale Avenue, incur 155 hours more travel time for a 66-hour net disbenefit. The study, the pilot study acknowledges that there's yet another increment of travel not accounted for, and I agree. That increment models can't catch it very well, but that's vehicles or drivers exiting or entering the non-intersection driveways and commercial entrances. I did a little calculation there, and that adds.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to cut you off. I'm having to hold everybody to three minutes per person.
That is about the essence of it. Then
Okay.
that both plans. I want this just clearly understood. They add to the travel time.
Okay, thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Richard Kane, 511 East Bloomingdale Avenue, Brandon, Florida. I own one of the longest established businesses on Bloomingdale. It's an animal hospital that we're in our 31st year. And we have about 10,000 plus families that are clients. Since I found out about this concept of the 3-2 in the morning westbound and the 3-2 in the afternoon eastbound, we started surveying our clients as they'd come in and see what their thoughts were. I hate to say, being in the medical profession, anything that's 100%, but 100% of the people thought it was a horrible idea. And the reason they came to that conclusion, one of the reasons is that last year the county removed the left turn lane from Bell Shoals to Mays Lane. All of a sudden, one day they're out doing some remodeling, construction. There is no more left turn lane there. So now, if you're traveling east on Bloomingdale, you can no longer, I'll try to say the business says, you can no longer go to the Burger King, the Taco Bell, the U-Haul place, the self-storage facility, the mobile gas station, or the convenience store there. You can't get there. We had to rent a U-Haul truck to move some medical equipment a few months ago. That ride, before you remove the center left turn lane, took about 20 seconds from my office. It took us 15 minutes to return the truck. There is no way to get there. This project, or pilot project, is recommending you remove the left center turn lane the entire length of Bloomingdale Avenue, from Lithia to 301 or from Bell Shoals to 301. It truly would be a disaster. Also, half of our practice is equine medicine. When someone brings their horses in to be treated, it's a big dually truck and a 15 to 30-foot trailer. Can you imagine them trying to pull out of there and not being able to turn one direction? It would be a physical impossibility. Those horses would be driven, I guess, through neighborhoods to find a U-turn somewhere, which you can't make a U-turn pulling a 30-foot trailer in a dually. So I just want to, just actively against this. I never saw anything in the suggestion box on this pilot study about how about in the morning when you're going westbound, you actually time the lights on Bloomingdale Avenue and maybe make the green cycle 15 seconds longer, and reverse that in the afternoon when you're coming eastbound, time the lights going east and maybe make them 15 seconds longer. I think that would probably get whatever benefit you're trying to do as far as getting some east-west traffic flow. I didn't see that in the study. Maybe it's in there, but the lights are definitely not timed now. And then I do have one question. Do you know what time the meeting for the Regents is on October 30th?
It's at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Mark's up next. Just so you can line up, Doug Smith, Rick Lewis, and Robert Sheffield. Okay.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Mark Woodside. I'm owner and operator of Brandon Lakes Animal Hospital. I'm a veterinary hospital at Winthrop Town Center. I have experience in the area since 2003. My practice was originally located in the shopping center at Lumsden and Providence. In 2011, I moved from a roughly 2,300 square foot lease space. If any of you are familiar with the area, there's a Bonefish Grill in that corner, to Winthrop. For those of you, again, familiar with the Winthrop area, It's a mixed-use, commercial, residential, and school area. And currently, ingress and egress in and out of that property is challenging, particularly in the mornings. We do have 2 charter schools on the property, and there is planned growth. Most of the residential growth has been finished by now, but there is still planned growth, mixed use on property. So the current proposal to have one way each way during the AM and PM, I understand. And being a commuter from South Tampa into the area at anywhere from 0700 to 1000 hours in the morning, and then 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night, there is an hour to 2 congestion period coming into town on the crosstown, as everybody knows. It's often backed up. What I appreciated, one of the comments from the young lady regarding Ms. McKinley, regarding the extension of the crosstown extender, and it was going to cost roughly $50 million. What percentage is that taking into consideration the $800 million project that was again proposed by her, a commissioner in the whole plan of the transportation plan? For me personally, I just don't know why it would even be considered to go one way in Bloomingdale at 2 times of the night, or 2 times during the day. It makes no sense. Literally, it makes no sense. And I would encourage each and every one of you to consider driving that area during that time and considering yourself as a business owner. I employ 24 people, double-digit growth per year. It's going to stop. And those people then will not have a job. And they won't be able to get a job along that corridor because you can't access the businesses. Thank you.
Well, first Pete, now repeat, right? My name is Doug Smith, 3813 Bellwater in Riverview, but I'm here as a representative of the Brandon Chamber of Commerce. I'm currently the co-chair of the Government and Economic Affairs Committee for the Chamber. On behalf of the Brandon Chamber, we do wish to thank Melissa, Jay, Sarah, all the folks on the Planning Commission who have been just fantastic to work with, the folks at the MPO, in particular Commissioner White, who's been an incredible advocate for us in Eastern Hillsborough County. As you know, the communities of Eastern Hillsborough County, we're unincorporated. So Commissioner White has been a great advocate, but it kind of falls on the Chamber of Commerce to be an advocate for our community as well. We try to disseminate as much information as we find out to the community, and I will tell you my phone has been blowing up ever since this report came out. And Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us and listen. And I mean, really listen and work with us and set up the meeting on the 30th. I think we've all read the reports about the pilot project, and I know many of our business owners and employees have, as you can see behind me. Over the past few weeks, my cell phone has exploded, and it's all been about the reversible lane issue on Bloomingdale. Now, in order to understand how our members and the businesses along Bloomingdale truly felt, we at the Chamber took the time to poll those impacted about their feelings. So we randomly stopped into businesses throughout the Bloomingdale, and that wasn't just our members, that was just businesses out there. And I'm sorry, Dr. Kane, we got a different number than you. We were only at 90% that were against the reversible lane. So 90% of all businesses who stopped in were against it. 70% of all businesses, that's not 70% of the 90, but 70% of all businesses we stopped in were strongly and vehemently opposed to the reversible lane project. One business, and I did this very agnostically when I asked them the question. I wasn't trying to tilt them one way or the other. And one business said that when they added an extension of a median that didn't allow them to turn left hand into their business, and this was a small restaurant, they lost 38% of business. And that was on Bloomingdale. And this will just absolutely be a job killer. The report obviously states that reversible lane scenario is a bad idea, but we at the Chamber really feel that it's going to cost a lot of jobs, and we ask you to think about that. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rick Lewis. I am the president and CEO of the Greater Brandon Chamber of Commerce. We've written a letter that I submitted to the Planning Commission last Friday, and so I'd like to be consistent with that letter. The Greater Brandon Chamber of Commerce is opposed to reversible lanes on Bloomingdale Avenue, one of 7 roadway concepts discussed in the Brandon Corridors of Mixed-Use Center Pilot Project Summary Report dated August 30th. The Chamber takes this position after hearing from members and community interest concerned with findings stated in the report, commissioned by the Hillsborough County Planning Commission and Hillsborough MPO. While in agreement with the need to address traffic and transportation issues in the Brandon study area, as well as the greater Brandon area in general, the Chamber nevertheless has concerns with the scope of the report and the process used in its generation, including insufficient public input, awareness, and support. As it relates to the reversible lanes, the summary report, page 3, finds that implementing reversible lane operations on all or portions of Bloomingdale Avenue is technically feasible and could improve peak period travel, but such an improvement would also result in longer travel times for local trips, restrictions on left turns to access businesses and the neighborhoods, and the loss of potential for pedestrian refuge at key crossroads. Alternative treatments may offer benefits, but with substantially less impact. Strategic operational and intersection improvements along with improved cross-parcel connectivity could relieve peak period congestion. The summary report is thorough in its presentation of the demographics, travel patterns, market forces, regional development plans, and consumer behavior affecting the quality of life in Brandon. And no one would disagree that attention to transit and traffic solutions is warranted, and increasingly so in the greater Brandon area, where residential growth and economic development has been and continues to be the order of the day. I'm trying to read this in 3 minutes, so it's a bit of a marathon. These transit and transportation concerns, however, go beyond even the scope of the report, which far too narrowly focuses on the area's 3 major east-west corridors: Brandon Boulevard, State Road 60, Lumsden Road, Causeway Boulevard, and Bloomingdale Avenue. Indeed, the so-called secondary roadway network, as noted in the report, warrants much greater attention, as any resident or business owner living through daily gridlock will tell you. These roads include, but certainly are not limited to, Lithia, Pinecrest, Bell Shoals, and Parsons. Moreover, consideration of these roads, major and secondary, should be regional in nature, as Brandon is connected to some of the fastest growing areas in Hillsborough County. The summary report states on page 6, the absence of a secondary network of interconnected collector streets contributes to congestion on the arterial network. Virtually all east-west trips are forced onto 3 arterials, thus contributing to arterial segment and intersection congestion. The report process. We are concerned that the report's vision mapping involved a review of plans that are somewhat dated and not reflective of the Brandon study area's additional growth and traffic, including the Brandon Community Plan, adopted in 2010. The Brandon Main Street
Actually,
Community Plan adopted in
I'm going to have
2003.
to cut you off. I did want to mention, we've received, all the commissioners have a packet, and we've received your letter and all the other emails that were received on this topic, so we do have those.
Thank
So-
you. Now you have our verbal comments as well.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because of the number of people, I'm going to hold on to 3 minutes, so please come forward. Next up, Pamela Preisner, Sheila Donaldson, and Michael Sells, so you guys can line up if you'd like. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Robert Sheffield, 11238 Sullivan Street, Winthrop Town Center on Bloomingdale. This is not what I like to do. I don't like to stand up here in front of people, so forgive me, of course. Hopefully I don't have a heart attack. Woo, it's racing. But I feel compelled, of course, as one of the newest business owners on Bloomingdale. I just opened up last Monday, and my wife and I, oh boy, this is not me. It's tough. Nothing but cakes.
What do you think it's going to do to your business?
The reversible lane, just the stigma it will create within the community. People will be deterred from going over there. And, my wife and I just put everything on the line, and hopefully we'll look at that and not just the reports. Thanks.
Okay.
When you put everything on your line,
Yeah, we just spent $500,000 to open, so.
you have all kinds of extra money laying around.
Nope. So, yep.
Thank
So
you.
thanks.
Thank you for coming forward. Yep. Trent, let's wait because we got so many people, so we'll have an opportunity to ask questions then. Pamela, please state your name and address.
Sheila
Sheila,
Donaldson.
that's fine.
You want my address too?
Yes, please state your address.
8419 Edison Road, Lithia, Florida. My business is in Winthrop. I opened my business in a very bad time in 2009 at Winthrop, which is a title company. You know how that follows with the real estate. And I recently sold my company, but I worked very hard to get in that position, to get that, to be able to sell that. And Winthrop, John Sullivan's been awesome to me. He has a wonderful product there, and I too am very concerned about the reverse lanes there because I travel that road every single day back and forth. I can't tell you how many wrecks I've seen. I can't tell you how many times I've almost had, been hit. So I'm saying how dangerous it is on that road as it is right now, and if you put reversible lanes on there, it's just going to be even worse. And there are many, many studies on that already from Phoenix, Arizona, to who went to all the studies, who went to all the money to prepare these studies, and they did it, and then they switched it back again. So that was totally wasted. So I think that how we feel right now is we're trying to stop it now before it goes any further and costs any more money to the citizens and the taxpayers. So that's where we're at right now. And this is Tanya with the Riverview Chamber. She's up here just for support.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Sells. I'm a longtime Brandon area resident, also a business owner. Actually, my business is, where's the bun cake guy? He's actually at the next door to me. I had never met him yet, but I know he just opened and I was in there the other day. But I just want to reiterate some of the things already have been said. The left turn, ending the left turns on Bloomingdale. I'm a breakfast lunch restaurant, so I mean, the times when, that would be in effect would be the time when we're, depending on people to be able to get to us relatively easily. And, pretty much Brandon is such a competitive retail and restaurant market. And we've been open 4 years. We've been very successful, have done well, built up a big following in the community. But in that same 4 years, competitors have shown up all over the place. So it's difficult enough for me as a businessman to just, tune our operations and our service to be able to just compete and stay open, period, and make money, period. Adding this very this very distinct disadvantage. I've told the John Sullivan, who's the landlord at Winthrop where I am, I'd have to move. I mean, if it ever became clear that this was going to happen, I would immediately look for plans to relocate my business probably outside of the Brandon area, unfortunately. But we have 30 employees. We built a good team, and they're concerned about this just from what they've heard so far. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Mitch Burley, Bryant Martinez, and Jose Salazar.
I did enjoy the gopher thing. I've got a couple on my property. Mitch Burley, 638 East Bloomingdale Avenue. I've been a resident and a business person in that area for 50 plus years, as much as I hate to admit that. We are very grateful for the study taking place. Brandon desperately needs transportation improvements, intersection improvements, road widening. There is no doubt that we need some help from you guys, development services, to continue to make it a great place to live. So we thank you very much for that. As far as I think, and what you've heard from everybody here today is most of the people are probably grateful as well, not necessarily mentioning that, but the thing that everybody's very concerned about is Bloomingdale Avenue and the reversible lanes, the effect it'll have both on the safety of the vehicular traffic as well as the potential for the businesses along that corridor. So I would highly hope that you would eliminate any future studies or spend any money in regards to the reversible lane, but please go forward with helping us get traffic flowing in Brandon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I am not Bryant Martinez, and I'm sure everybody behind me understands that. I'm Cindy Meehan Casey. I'm the Vice President of Winthrop Town Center. I work for Mr. Sullivan, and I come here for...
Can you provide your address?
Oh, yes. Listen to this. I live on Winthrop Market Street, right next door to the Publix. You know, somebody has to have a good sense of humor, and so I wanted to, first of all, let you all know that I'm sitting in this room and I can't help but look at your pictures. And, okay. That's Winthrop on the top. If you've never come to us, we have the retail downstairs. And then the Optic Soho is also our tenant at Winthrop. And if you look over here to the left-hand side and see the family, we have hundreds of family that walk on our property because everything is a walkable town. It's our own little village. The one thing I want to tell you, in your study, and when you were showing the town centers and the different mixed-use properties, that's my Starbucks, and that's my Acropolis. And I absolutely can tell you both have told me already that they would leave us. We're on the opposite side of the road already for Starbucks. Anybody ever try to get one to come into your town center? You have to be on the morning traffic. We happen to be in the afternoon traffic. But we are so happy to have them there, and we keep them busy, and that's why they keep rewriting another 12-year lease with me. So in addition to that, Rob was a new tenant. Also, I have other new tenants that are here who have just opened up their business this week in the next 30 days. And we're producing more business in our market. But I really wanted you to listen to the people who really have paid the money to be on Bloomingdale, to provide to all of our people in Bloomingdale and also Riverview and Brandon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. After Jose, we have Dennis Wood.
Hi, my name is Jose Salazar. Just 5180 Sunridge Drive. Anyway, I just finished my master's in urban planning at USF not too long ago. I'm an advocate for bicycling. I am totally against cars. I just want to tell you that I want you to, hold on, I'm a chicken scratch. I want you to be serious in building an alternate form of transportation for a lot of different reasons, all right? One of the main reasons is most people know where they live, but they don't know when they live in the cycle of things. In the cycle of our lives, of our cities, the disadvantage of the car is starting to outweigh its advantages. It's time to build a true bicycle infrastructure, all right, where the car road and the bicycle road do not intersect with each other, all right, where it benefits everybody. All right, one of the things that I skipped that I meant to say was the Miami-Dade executive officer of MPO was here last week. She made a comment. She said that Hillsborough County traffic congestion is only a decade away from being the same amount as they are. I was the one that asked, did she consider a strategy to depopulate cars? She wasn't aware of one, but the bicycle transportation network that's focused in Brandon County is a good area to start. Something to build that will make Portland and will make Denmark envious. And they will come here looking for us to see how it's done. I already wrote a plan of how. But I want you to think about this. A true bicycle infrastructure network where you build overpasses and underpasses, because the money will come from, instead of building the bicycle roads for cars, for the automotive industry, think of all those millions of dollars that you can now build a bicycle network that goes to 4 places, where they live, where they work, where they do social stuff and daily things. Now, he did a great job in doing data, gathering data for us to understand. And one of the things he has over there is the fact that people that come and go inside of Bradenton. Well, I'm focusing on the people that live within there, because the people that live within Bradenton, they also go to work a couple of blocks and where they live. But they're also on that same road when they're doing their daily things like food shopping, picking up kids. And they're also on that same road when it's time for social life. All right? Think about how many they could be taken off the car, off over there if they wouldn't need a car. All right, with a bicycle infrastructure. Now, hold on a second, my chicken scratch. All right. Yeah, I want you to start asking them if they want a true bicycle infrastructure, not a car where the money will be spent. All right. And think about this, when you start doing that in a focus area, you get a people of non-car market. When it comes time for the penny tax for transportation, for public transportation, they will vote for it. And one last thing to think about, people that don't have cars, chosen not to have a car, it's a bicycle commuter, also don't have car bills. They have more money to spend on the local economy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, by the way, I'm looking for a job, so fund me, and I'll give you an initial plan, a true one.
Okay, thank you.
For the records, Dennis Wood, 1925 Bartow Road, Lakeland, Florida. And I'm here representing Publix supermarkets, and they have 3 supermarkets along the Bloomington Trail there, or Boulevard. I have a letter here that I couldn't get in. I'll leave it here for y'all in future, and I'm going to go over kind of the bullet points that I had so that we can address our concerns. And Publix is strongly against the reversible lanes, and here is some of the reasons. We discussed the delay earlier. Delay that's within the report only addresses the delay to the commuter traffic and system traffic, and it does not account for the traffic delays for those that enters the residential communities trying to turn around to go back to their neighborhoods in the afternoons and the mornings. So there's additional delays. Report addresses says the delay with the reversible lanes is more than that. So I wanted to make sure that y'all knew that part. And one of the biggest things, and everybody's contending with it, by eliminating the turn lane in the middle and the turn lanes at the intersections will create tremendous problems. In other words, the report addresses a U-turn situation at the signals location where there's 10 traffic signals within that corridor. And if you look at the attempting to put U-turns for those, you're going to create tons and tons of problems and accident issues and just strictly efficiency issues. So that's a big problem. By eliminating the left turn, as we know that if you've driven on those top roads and you're trying to make a left turn from a driveway or from a roadway or whatever, we use that turn lane as a refuge lane, which means that you'll make it like a 3-point turn. You enter the middle turn and then you enter. You're going to be eliminating that. Will create a lot more accident issues and problems for the not only Publix people, but everybody along that area. Most importantly, you're also going to increase the traffic to the neighborhoods. And as the number one traffic thing I bet it was a traffic engineer for City of Tampa for a year and with DOT for 11 years, you always try to keep the traffic from the neighborhoods. And if you were to implement that, all the neighborhood people are unaware of this, of these meetings and stuff, so they're going to be really objectional to that. So I think I had a few others, but I am leaving the...
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure everybody gets a copy. Thank you. Any other public comment? If anyone else wants to speak on this item, you're welcome to come forward. State your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Dorn. I'm the Executive Director at the Greater Riverview Chamber of Commerce. My address at the office is 10012 Waterworks Lane, Riverview, Florida. Just a few items. I think that you've probably received the assessment tonight that there's a lot of business owners that are not really keen on this plan. A couple of things I just want to mention. There are safety issues regarding this plan. There are elder drivers from the bridges. There are novice drivers with Bloomingdale High School. I ask that you please take this in consideration because reversible lanes can be dangerous. So the safety aspects of this plan is very concerning, especially if you're a mother. The business impact Well, you've heard that from the business owners here. And I want to remind you that part of this plan is in Riverview. It's impacting Riverview. We learned about this project through John Sullivan, which we greatly appreciate, who brought this to our attention. We tried to educate ourselves the best we could about this plan and have serious concerns. I know that this is just a feasibility study, but we would love to be part of this session, the future and the solution for this, because it has a long ways to go, and it is very concerning about the reversible lanes. The only other feedback I would have that I would like to share is that there are 80,000 people estimated in this area. A few hundred responses to a survey is not adequate. It's just simply not enough to make an educated decision on what the people in that community and how it's going to impact folks. So if you're going to use those surveys results, please consider doing a better job or a more thorough job to get more people to reply that are actually going to be impacted on a daily basis. And that's it. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing? Bruce Cordy. I own Ace Hardware of Bloomingdale on 505 East Bloomingdale Avenue. Just a couple of comments. Number one, I'm a little disappointed that I just found out about this within the last 2 weeks, and I just opened this business within the last 18 months. When this has been going on, invested in property, went through the Planning Commission to get it rezoned and approval that way, built a building. So I've got a couple $1 million in this project, and now I find that I may be limited on access to my store. Number one, I would challenge you to come out and drive during that peak time also and take a look at why the issue is there. Mainly the morning, if you drive the morning going west, it's really not an issue if they time the lights properly because they have somewhere to go when they get to the western end of Bloomingdale Avenue at 301. The problem comes into play in the evening on the commute home when it bottlenecks at Bell Shoals and at Lithia Pinecrest because they have not widened any of the north-south corridor streets. So if you get past Bell Shoals, it lightens up. If you get to Lithia Pinecrest, it then lightens up. That's where the bottleneck is. So making it 3 lanes going east in the evening is only going to get you to that gridlock quicker. It's not going to solve the problem. You've got to have somewhere for those cars to go. And they're just cutting through neighborhoods now. The other part of it is all the businesses along Bloomingdale Avenue need deliveries from semis. What are you going to do with a semi as far as a U-turn or a turnaround? Where are they going to go to make a turnaround to make a delivery to my store? So there's a lot of, I agree. Something needs to be done to move traffic a little bit better. But right now, a turn lane going left, when there is gridlock in the afternoon, cars are sitting there anyway, so they let traffic through to go into your business. If you eliminate that turn lane, you eliminate that opportunity. So I would just like for you to take that into consideration. But again, I think if you go and you concentrate on the money on the north-south roads so they can get off of Bloomingdale Avenue timely, because if you get to Bell Shoals and you look down there, it's wall-to-wall, bumper-to-bumper traffic because they can't get off Bloomingdale Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. No further public comment. We're going to move on to item 14, Executive Director's Report. Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions from commissioners on that item? Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green.
This study has a good deal to do with transportation issues. So are we coordinating with the MPO on this? And if so, to what extent?
Yes, well, the MPO, it was a co-project between the MPO and the Planning Commission. This will be brought through the MPO committees. As Sarah showed on the slide, there's a number of committee meetings.
That's right, I did see
Bicycle
that.
Pedestrian, Livable Roadways, Technical Advisory, and Citizens Advisory Committee, as well as the Policy Committee. And then it will be, the end result of this, so everyone's clear, is simply that the report gets accepted. And we will be incorporating all the feedback that we are getting over the next few weeks. We're getting emails even as I sit here. So we'll be sharing those and incorporating those comments into the final report that would be before you all in December and the MPO in December, just for its acceptance. And then we are working with the county, with Ms. Garces, on a workshop with the Board of County Commissioners, since many of the county commissioners are very interested in this study, to let them know about it. But there are not plans for this to, absent the land use piece that she talked about, a phase 2 on,
Okay.
there's not immediate plans for something to move forward. There's some things that Hart's looked at. There's the pieces that Sarah talked about with FDOT, but there's not a, we're going to conclude the study. That is the end game in the coming months, is concluding the study.
So phase 2 will focus more on land use issues.
Yeah, the land
Yes.
use and the redevelopment of those areas around the hospital, the Brandon Main Street, that for years the community has talked about wanting to see some development and redevelopment in that area, and how can we make all of that more feasible, since those were the areas where people wanted to see the new development focused up along 60.
Okay, because I was looking to hear a lot more about, maybe Mr. Shoecraft can address this issue. I was looking to hear more about how these centers that Jay talked about and Sarah talked about, how they're being coordinated with what's being considered from a transportation point of view, though.
Well, I think the I'm going to mess up the name of the compact urban centers. I think that's the right name. Those centers tie in really nicely with what HDR did looking at transit in terms of the BRT and those and the transit circulators, that really having those higher density and intensity centers up along 60 could help support having some additional transit service in that corridor. Additionally, in that compact urban centers, it calls for a much higher degree of connectivity and walkability than you probably find in those areas today, even though the area around the hospital actually has some connections and a little bit of a grid, if you would. It is not an area that I would choose to walk around necessarily today, the way it's configured and the parking lot. So there's a lot of things that HDR identified would need to be sort of dug in on to figure out how to make that work, and
Well, listen, Ms. Garces brought it up, access management. Of course, that's one of the keys to how all this is going to work, actually. So, yes.
Yes,
So I'm looking forward
stormwater.
to-
I mean, there's parking. There are a number
Right.
of issues that we've identified need to be addressed to make a center like that work. And now what the county wants to do is sort of dig in phase 2 on how we turn what we've come up with as a concept and some policy framework. How do we make that into more of a reality, something that could go in the land development code and people be able to develop based on it? So
Okay,
that's
good.
where we're at with that
Commissioner
piece.
Dowdy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I probably more comment than question as far as that goes. Just so you guys know, this is where I live in Brandon. We moved here when I was 6 years old, so I've been around for a little while. Lumsden was a 2-lane washboard dirt road back then. So I've seen a lot of growth occur, and I've driven all of these corridors on multiple times, or sat on all these corridors at multiple times. And I'm glad to hear a number of people that spoke talked about they were happy that there was a study going on. They may not be happy with some of the proposals that are in it, but I am very thankful that at least it's being looked at. I've made comments before to our executive director, I'm not sure whether I've made them on mic, that if I had my druthers, I'd blow Brandon up and start over again. But that's not really going to happen. the interconnectivity is not there. Like they've said, there's only 3 east-west roads, main east-west roads, and everybody has to get on it. I would like people to just keep in mind, I can understand, I've frequented the establishments, some of the business owners that have been here still do, will continue to. But I get frustrated when people say, well, you're going to impact my business, you're going to impact my business, take it over here, do something with this other road. There's a reason that the other road hasn't been widened, because all the people on that road have said the same thing. And it's a vicious circle. So please work with our staff, work with our executive director, get your opinions in there, but be, I guess, advised that whatever ultimately happens, everybody's not going to be happy. Something has to give. I'm not really sure what. I mean, I've lived in the center of Brandon back when it was just a sleepy bedroom town for Tampa and that we didn't have any of these issues. But from my perspective, Brandon is not walkable. It's not bikeable. It's hardly drivable at times. But I still want to live there. And I don't have any crystal ball to see what the end game of all this is, but I really do want to see some improvements. I would very much love to see the transportation situation get better. Get better. Just one, I mean, for my own personal thing, so I can get around, like everybody said, so I can get around, do my shopping, do all of my stuff in Brandon, as well as my regular commute downtown for work during the day. That's basically what I wanted to get into here. I don't know that there's any really one right answer, like I said, that's going to make everybody happy. But and I'm not sure that reversible lanes is an answer on Bloomingdale either. But I mean, I remember when the Crosstown Expressway was first coming in, and it was proposed to be above Lumsden all the way down to 39, and there was a lot of brouhaha about that. And it stops right after the mall where it is because there was a lot of argument about it. Although that extension of the crosstown might have alleviated some of this problem that we're experiencing today. So all I'm getting at is just realize that whatever the ultimate answer comes out to be, that there are going to be some people who feel the pain. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Commissioner Pike.
On that note, though, I would like to make a comment that if I had spent $2 million and built a new building, and I'll just advocate for all the small business owners, and you do have a vested right in this, right? And people do take your comments more than you realize. Because what happens is we got all these people, and only a few people ever respond to anything, okay? So do not think that your voice is not heard. Because at the end of the day, you know, you have a vested right. And what's going to happen is when they start messing with roads, you know what the impact's going to be. It doesn't happen overnight. It's months and sometimes longer than that. And a lot of times small businesses cannot survive that period of time. So I will just say that the commissioner's got a great point, but you better be your own advocate. You know, go to these meetings. People want to hear what you have to say. Stacy White's a great guy. Planning Commission, you know, they want to hear from you. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? We'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Moreno.
Just one question. I guess, I don't know if it's for Sarah or Jay. Regarding the reversible lanes concept, was elevated ever considered? Similar to Gandy and South Tampa?
No, we did not.
Okay. Now, before I move on, any other comments? Sorry. Okay, thank you. We are going to move on to Executive Director's report.
And in the interest of time, I'll just stay here and answer any questions you might have. The only thing I wanted to point out is we had the Smart Plan Roundtable discussion on last Monday with the executive director of the Miami-Dade MPO, and she spoke about their plan to have a number of modes, including some additional rail, some express bus in some of their toll lanes. And it was a really comprehensive approach to looking at their transit in particular, and reminded me very much of some of the work that's being done in the regional transit feasibility plan that's being done by Oh my God, Jacobs, thank you. My brain just went blank. But that rather than forward one line, the main emphasis from them is that they're forwarding multiple projects at one time. And Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Joseph were there, so they're welcome to chime in as well on their thoughts. But the other thing I wanted to point out is we're also going to have a roundtable, a similar type discussion with FDOT on Tampa Bay Next on October 25th at 9 a.m. We've had a couple of these with staff and DOT, and I think Commissioner Green joined us for one of them. It's just been a more informal discussion for us to talk about where they are in the process and what's going on, and would welcome any of you all who want to attend that as well. We'll be putting it on our calendar so it's in the sunshine so more than one of you can come. And that's it, unless there are questions.
Okay, any questions? Next up.